Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 409 of the Stacey West Podcast. I am your host tonight, Ben, and I'm joined by Chris. How you doing, mate? You well?
Oh, I'm very well. Very, very well. I've been looking forward to this all day. It's strange, isn't it? Looking forward to a podcast after a loss, but it was so much more than that, wasn't it, last night? Yeah, I'm very, very well, thank you, mate. Are you okay? Your voice sounds a little bit delicate, dare I say.
It's a little bit delicate. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting to be on the pod tonight. I've filled in, but yeah, it's recovered somewhat. Shall we say? I purposely said to everybody at work, like, yeah, don't ring me today, please, if we can help it. But yeah, no, it was. It's been fun. Yeah, how have you been since the weekend? I think I can't remember the last time. Well, last time we were on a podcast together was a long while ago.
It was. Yeah, it was. Good, mate. I haven't really got a lot to report, to be honest. I'd love to come to you with some sort of funny anecdote, but I haven't really got anything this time round. I think it's a bit self-indulgent to still talk about my goal 3 or 4 weeks.
I was going to say, do you want to tell me about your goal, because you've not told me specifically?
No. I'm not going to do that anymore. It was good fun, but that's a bit unfair. But just been a really good few days to be a Lincoln City supporter. Well, it's been a good season so far, of course, but I think obviously the performance of the season in the league on Saturday, going into last night, everyone I spoke to felt reasonably confident. Not that we was going to win, but that we're certainly going to be proud by the end of the 90 minutes, and we certainly were that. So just a really good time to be an imp at the moment, mate. So yeah, nothing to report other than all is well my end. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, we've got we do have we only really have 2 topics tonight, but I don't think there'll be much of a problem filling an hour with them, because yeah, it was absolutely it was a special evening last night, and I think you could feel it even before the kickoff. Like, you know, getting to the ground, I wanted to get there nice and early, and managed to, despite some slight hiccups at home involving an electrician taking out the power to our entire house for about 3 hours and then leaving the house without turning everything back on. So yeah, that was a fun one. So yeah, got to the ground, and I was like, yeah, okay, the fan zone felt probably about the same as it would do at about 1:45. So it was filling out. Obviously, the biggest disappointment of the evening was the fact that Curry Jacks weren't there. I was borderline angry on that one, to be honest with you. But yeah, it started to fill out quite quickly, and had some lovely people come up to us and you know, come up to us and talk about the podcast, and you know, the fact that they listen and everything. So it is very much appreciated. It made me feel quite humble. And I know you have similar experiences quite frequently as well, don't you?
Yeah, I'll never get used to it, and I'm so sorry for the chap whose name I've forgotten. But there was quite an interesting moment, or funny moment, last week actually, on the way to the fans forum. So I work in town, not far from the ground. So I thought, well, I might as well stay around, hang about. No point going home and coming back again. Popped into town, went and got a sneaky post-work pint, which doesn't happen very often. That was quite a nice moment. And the plan was to treat myself and have 2 meals out last Thursday. We always have one at work on Thursday. It's our kind of weekly thing. And then to have a little bit of a bite to eat after work as well before the fans forum. And because myself and famous Joe, who we gets a few shout outs on this podcast because it's who I sit next to, and I also work with him. We were so stuffed from lunch, I wasn't hungry. Anyway, I was then walking towards the ground, and suddenly I thought, I'm a bit peckish now. So I just went to Tesco Extra and just got an egg sandwich. It's a boring, plain old egg sandwich, but it was enough to see me through. So I was walking down the high street, egg sandwich in mouth, mid-bite, and someone comes up in front of me and says, "Hello, Mr. Lamming." And I was taken back a little bit, and it was someone who listens to the podcast. I'm so sorry who it was. I've forgotten your name. I did even ask him his name, and I forgot. So I'm so sorry. But we had a nice good kind of 5-10 minute chat about the imps, and it was nice. And then carried on wandering towards the fans forum, finishing off my sandwich. But yeah, it'll never get boring. It'll never feel normal, and it's always so appreciated. But it was quite funny that I was mid chomp when I had that conversation.
See, the thing is, you almost, you say it'll never not feel weird. We kind of almost expect it at the ground, because that's where the people that will listen to this will likely be. It's when you're in town and just on a completely random thing, and somebody comes up to you and starts talking about it. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. It happened to me the other week at the. I went up to the exhibition that was up at the cathedral around the same time as the steampunk event. So there was so many people all over the place, and just got stopped by a lovely chap, and we had a good old chat about the podcast and the club, and just brilliant stuff. But yeah, we'll obviously start talking about the game because that is the big special thing that happened. I mean, I know when the draw was made, everyone sort of said, "Oh bloody hell, that's a huge game," and the conversations that we've had, both in our WhatsApp chat and in the Stacey West Discord, we've all said, it felt like it was maybe the biggest game in terms of opposition that we've had at Sincil Bank, at least in front of fans, for as long as I can remember. I mean, obviously Liverpool came in during COVID. There weren't any fans in the stadium, and we played Chelsea's under 21s before. But yeah, it's it just felt like one of those moments where you think, okay, this could be a big night. And I know we bumped into each other before the game as well, and you said you'd not really felt that too much beforehand, and then it kind of maybe hit you as you got to the ground.
It did, yeah, completely. I picked Gary up and his nephew Isaac, which was really nice. So Isaac coming to, I think, his second or third game. So we had a nice chat on the way in, and I don't often get a chance to read Gary's articles, but I did read his one about just how he felt going into the game, and I have to admit, I was more of the opinion of what Gaz said that he used to be going into this, in that I would rather get a result against Luton and Peterborough. I never really felt nervous about last night. Even during the game, to be honest, even when it did hit me about the occasion, I never felt nervous. It was just good fun. I was really there just to enjoy the occasion. But it didn't really hit me until probably walking up to the ground, because we were a little bit later than you. The plan was to go and grab a bite to eat and then go to the fan zone. But walking up to the ground, the queues to get in were huge, about 40 minutes before kickoff. So I thought, well, let's just go in now, make sure we get in. In fairness, everyone organised it brilliantly, because even though the queues were long, they were quick. But we didn't know that. They were actually, yeah, we didn't know that at the point that I joined the end of the queue. And it hit me kind of just walking in, and then speaking to Joe when I got into the ground, and speaking to Gary, who kind of very much changed his tune. And I kind of thought, yeah, it is. It's pretty big, this. And then obviously, the whole occasion really hit me once we got in the ground and started talking about it to everyone else. But it hadn't really dawned upon me until the moment. And I think I was quite, not unique, but there wasn't many people I spoke to who felt similar. Most people felt the occasion, and rightly so, in the build up to it. But it probably made the analysis of the build up, like when the team news came out, for example, easier without the anticipation or the pressure, because the team news was certainly interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the surprising is probably something that came to my mind. I mean, I know we were in the I was actually stood in the fan zone with Emily when the team came through, and as we started reading it out, we said, we've got Gcock, Deriqua, Monsma, Monsma. Like, there was just that moment where my brain just went, oh, hang on, what? Lewis Monsma's starting. Okay, that's come out of basically nowhere. But I think another conversation that I had with somebody last night, where we said, they maybe felt that Gcock possibly deserves a little bit more game time in the league. And I thought, well, for me, last night showed the faith and the trust that Michael Skubala had in Zach Gcock to play possibly the biggest game we're going to see at Sincil Bank for a long time. And he's a young lad, and he's he's the cup keeper. You know, and the fact that he started the cup keeper in what is essentially a huge game, it just showed, okay, right, no, we're not going quote unquote all out to you know, show Chelsea up, but we will treat this as a cup game. Like there were plenty of changes in the side, and I did hear somebody joke about and say, oh, you know, we've put a stronger side out than Chelsea have.
Well, the first half would show that maybe was true in the first 45 minutes, but we'll talk about that. Yeah, the lineup was really interesting, and I was saying before the game, and again, this is that probably looking back arsehole-ish sort of statement, and I kind of said, you know, because I was of the opinion, you know, this is a good laugh, but Peterborough is the important game. You know, I was that arsehole before the game. I'll admit it now, and I kind of smugly said, well, Michael Skubala clearly feels the same after naming that lineup. You know, as much as you have a cup goalkeeper, I don't think when you pick that and you name the goalkeeper as that pre-season that you expect to play in this magnitude of match. And I think if you are that cup goalkeeper, you probably don't expect to be selected in here. So I thought it was a real show of faith in Zach. And he was solid, albeit not actually that busy, which was interesting, but he did everything that was asked of him. Riley Taylor coming in has been dependable. I think the big two for me was Monsma and Vartholomew, who was unbelievably good, by the way. Yes. But Lewis was really solid. But it was certainly a lineup which, when you look at it, there were 3 or 4 names that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be in quote unquote our strongest 11. Now, I think what I've now learned off the back of that, kind of retrospectively, is that even though players haven't necessarily been in the starting 11 in the league yet, that doesn't mean that they're miles away from being capable of doing so, and they're so far down the pecking order. We've just got a really strong squad of very, very good footballers, and it only takes 1 or 2 good performances or an injury to somebody, and that person can get in the team in the league, and are more than good enough to keep that position themselves. I don't think there's anyone in our current starting 11 that's guaranteed to start every single game. I think there is like real, genuine strength in depth, and we knew that in terms of numbers. But I think how close everyone is in regards to just overall ability was proven to me last night a little bit. So even though it felt pre-match we're putting a little bit of a second string out, they're not. They're just part of a first team squad, and they're all very, very capable footballers and more than held their own.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think you mentioned the fans forum. I had the chance briefly to chat with Michael Skubala before the fans forum started, and he was saying in there, you know, the thing that he's finding difficult is not even picking the first 11, but who makes the bench. You know, we've got such depth and such quality in that depth that he's, you know, all of a sudden you have to leave somebody out of the match day squad. Who do you leave out when you have the quality that we've got available to us? It's a headache that I wouldn't like to have, but I'm glad that Michael does, if that's probably the best way of putting it.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a good problem to have. It's difficult to keep everyone happy, of course, when you have that, but I think Michael's doing it really well at the moment, and there's such unity in the squad. You can see that. You can see that with your eye. You can measure anything. You can see it. And obviously, long may that continue, because I think that can get you a long way in football. I really do.
Yeah, and I think you know, we've joked about it before, but the club have sort of an unofficial no dickhead policy, and the fact that it doesn't seem like there's any major egos throwing the toys out the pram if they're not left out. You know, if they're not starting or if they're not in the squad, it just seems that everybody's here to get that common goal and you know, push us forward. And realistically, pushing us forward last night was obviously one of the key aspects of the game, because within 90 seconds, Lewis Monsma, a player who hasn't started yet this season, found himself, after a wonderful little pass from Ben House, by the way, just found himself with a couple of yards of space, hits the inside of the post. And I think I sent a message to the group saying, I'm going to have to turn my heart rate monitor off on my watch for this game, because, oh my Lord, the noise in that ground when the ball hit the post, I think everybody thought it had gone in. And it was the first example of the night of that infamous phrase from Mr. Cowley of "it's fine margins," isn't it?
Oh, it certainly was fine margins. Inside of the post as well. It's not very often you hit the inside of the post and it comes back out again. I thought it was going to hit the inside of the post and then kind of not trickle, but kind of cannon across to the other side netting, and we'd all go mad. But it was a great moment, great start. But it just set the tone that first couple of minutes, didn't it? Mm-hmm. Because we were absolutely relentless in that first half. I would like to credit, obviously, every player. We all did our man of the match video last night. It was impossible to pick a man of the match, really. We all picked somebody, but they all deserved it. My honest man of the match is Michael Skubala. Tactical masterclass. I honestly think it was an absolute tactical masterclass. And then a credit to every single player who performed in that, because it was difficult to work out what our lineup was. And it was struggling to see because it wasn't ever really settled in the game because Chelsea rotate a lot. I was pleased Michael did mention it a couple of times in his post-match press conference ago. Oh, yeah, of course it was. So we played he named it as a back five, so back three with wing backs, then a diamond midfielder and one up top. Obviously, Freddie was in the 10 role behind Rob Street, but he went and joined in quite a bit. And then either side of Conor McGrandles, who was holding, was Ben House and Ivan. But they were all over the pitch. And I just found it was just great because you'd expect a lot of Premier League teams, let alone League One teams, that would play against Chelsea and think the most likely way we're going to get something out of this is play 10 men behind the ball, and we play on the break, we play for one or two chances and hope they drop our way. We took the game to them. Yeah, we were direct. Yeah, we played to our strengths and Chelsea's weaknesses, which is exactly what you do to try and win a game of football, isn't it? And but we were brave enough to press them high. I thought how we pressed was really interesting. Ivan sitting probably the most notable in that, but we're quite dynamic in our press. But Ivan, not just off when we scored, but that's a good example of that. But he often jumped from his position in midfield into press the centre back. And I don't want to be snobby or anything, but for anyone that keeps hearing Michael Skubala say the word jumping in his post-match press conferences, he doesn't literally mean jumping up in the air. It just means that let's imagine I'm marking a central midfielder, it means leaving that player to go and then press the ball. And then someone else will then leave their player to go and mark the player that I've just left. And it's like jumping positions is kind of what he means. And Ivan was doing that really, really regularly. Ben House did at times as well. But what I loved was that Riley Towler and Lewis Montsma are often then jumping and pressing up in and following the midfielder really, really high. It's so brave. It's so brave. But we trapped them a few times. We played to our strengths. We got the ball in the box so often. It was, Bennett, it was an absolute joy. It was an absolute joy for for the whole 90 minutes, but particularly for that 45 minutes. And I don't say this lightly, and I don't say this with rose-tinted glasses, I don't think. We battered them for 45 minutes.
The word was
battered them.
It was on the tip of my tongue. Genuinely, I was astonished with how well we managed to deal with, not only deal with, but nullify and create our own threats in that first half. I thought the only thing that probably could have been slightly different, or that maybe let me down a little bit, was that I felt there were a lot of soft free kicks going Chelsea's way. And, most of those came from the target man of the evening, shall we say, with Mr. Garnacho. And even that still feels a bit weird to say. Like Tendai Darikwa going up against Garnacho, he bossed him. He absolutely bossed him. He couldn't get forward. He couldn't beat him. So he just fell over. And the ref seemed to give it more often than not. And there was one instance, the one that really, I think, started to wind everybody up, is he went down and then he stayed down. But when he went down, the ref didn't give the free kick. He only gave the free kick after he'd gone down and started clutching his ankle. I was like, okay, is this how it's going to be? Like, are we going to have to be playing against 12? And I don't think we were, because, I don't think the referee had a bad game. And I'm not going to sit here and go, if it weren't for the referee, we would have won. But, I mean, yeah, it was just, I think, being used to refereeing top-flight games, they're not as physical as League One. And I know, again, that's another cliche. But, if you introduce a team that is used to being able to play exactly how they want and get away with it, and then suddenly you introduce them to a League One side who's like, nah, I tell you what, lads, you're coming here for a game.
Yeah, and they certainly know they've been in a game, don't they?
Yes.
Which is probably all we could have hoped for. But yeah, just on the ref, and we've praised referees before, we've criticised referees before. I like to think we're pretty balanced on referees. Like we really praised Seb Stockbridge, I think, at the weekend, didn't we?
Yep.
And, which is weird to say, but he's actually been great ever since that Notts County game for us. It's just a name that sticks in the mind. But yeah, I thought the referee was maybe a little protective of Chelsea. Now, I felt like there was elements of maybe refereeing the occasion rather than the actual match that was in front of him.
That's fair. That's fair.
And because it was obvious what we're playing for. We want to rough them up a little. We want to be in their face. We want to be aggressive. We want to play for fouls and set pieces and throw-ins and corners. And yeah, I think maybe giving a few soft free kicks just encourages us to step off that. Now, luckily we didn't. We just kept doing it. But there was a few times where you think, oh, it's a bit soft. Some of them you could see why they were given, but it was the amount, I think. And yeah, don't get me wrong. We were putting a lot of challenges in. We were pressing a lot. When you put so many attempts to win the ball back in, a percentage of them are always going to be fouls, aren't they? But yeah, I thought a few of them were certainly soft. Chelsea players know how to win a foul, and it is winning a foul, isn't it? It isn't necessarily being fouled; it's winning a foul, winning a free kick. I suppose it's an element of professionalism. It's an element of gamesmanship. I don't like it though. I don't like it at all. But you know what? There was something quite old school about our approach yesterday with a very modern twist, because like we play for set pieces, we play for not just long balls, but we tried to use our physicality and our intensity to bully Chelsea and keep them under pressure, defending their box for as long as possible. But I think the difference between that style these days than maybe the traditional kind of 90s 4-4-2 is it was smart to do that. It was smart to take that approach, and it was targeted in certain areas. I was so impressed. I was just so impressed. Yes, we could talk about this for like 6 hours, and I don't think we'll get bored about talking about it. And just quickly on the shape, actually, before we touch on any other specifics, is because that diamond midfield was really interesting because we were so narrow a lot of the time, and I don't know if I'd love that all the time in the league, but I noticed it a few times in that Chelsea's left back Hatter was always coming inside. He's not the sort of left back that goes on the outside and overlaps. So we just left him. We just didn't mark him really at all. We only ever closed him down when he had the ball. But the rest of the time he was free. We forced the ball to the right hand side. When the ball went across to Chelsea's right hand side, pretty much the whole of our team came all the way across the pitch, and you could draw a line down the middle of the pitch, kind of lengthways. And every single one of our 11 players would be in that half of the pitch. So we just forced Chelsea to play in such a small area. And it just kept all of our players close to the ball. We played for those duels and we knew we'd be strong at winning them. It was just so clever. It was so clever. Like, what are our strengths? Aggression and intensity, set pieces.
Yeah.
And we played for that. It was great.
Yeah, and I know I know you're a man who loves a good stat, and you threw some stats towards me and Emily on Sunday to talk about on the pod, and they were particularly around the duels. Looking at the stats from last night, duels won. How do you think it went, Chris? Now, I'm presuming you've probably got them in front of you. But...
You know what? I haven't. I've got lots of other numbers in front of me which are interesting in terms of like the attacking things. I haven't actually looked at total dual numbers. I saw we had a high percentage and they did, but I haven't looked at I didn't notice the numbers too much. Go on.
So in total, we'll start with aerial duels won. 21 won by Lincoln compared to 17 by Chelsea. So 55%, 45% for us.
Someone messaged me earlier, actually. James Harness, Trig, often watches the podcast. He messaged me saying £70 million for Fana had an aerial duel success rate of 17% last night.
Yep, there you go. On the ground, we did lose slightly on that one, 31-33. However, overall, last night, we out-duelled Chelsea. We won 52 of the duels compared to 50.
That's cool. Be interested to see how that split first half and second half as well.
Yes, yeah. But, so we've briefly touched on the referee, that there is a moment that when it happened, my phone blew up with texts from people that were watching on the telly. And And I thought if that's given, it's probably soft, but you've got to scream for it. Freddie Draper. Should that have been a penalty, Chris?
I'm with you, by the way. In the ground, I think I said I didn't really feel. Not that I didn't feel the occasion. I just didn't feel the nervousness. I was just really enjoying the occasion. And when that happened, I just sat. I swear, I didn't move. I just sat in my chair still with a smile on my face, thinking that's fun. It's not a pen, but it's funny. And everyone else appealed. I thought I should have at least appealed for it. I'm a football fan, for goodness sake. But I would just sit there because I didn't even for a second think it was a penalty. However, watching it back, well.
Yeah,
I think it's a very strong shout watching it back that certainly could be a penalty. I think you'll see softer ones given this season, just because the defender hasn't intentionally brought Freddie down doesn't mean it's not a foul.
Yeah,
and I think on second, third, fourth, fifth viewing, I think it's a penalty. On first viewing, I definitely didn't, but I've certainly changed my mind on that after watching it again.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, Rob Street didn't intentionally kick the lad in the face the other week, but, he got a yellow card and he got his second yellow. So, yeah, I think there was a strong shout, but I think, we're literally clutching at straws at that point, I think, in terms of wanting to get something from the game. But look, we've waxed lyrical about how we managed to play in the first half. I just thought we were absolutely spectacular. Everything that we needed to do, we did. I don't think anybody put a foot wrong in that entire first half. And, well, in red and white at least, because the moment that we all wanted came from a defensive mix-up. And we kind of thought this would happen because we're there going, they're going to dick around with it at the back, aren't they? Can we press them? Can we get something out of this? And sure enough, the ball comes over the top. And even Varfolomiev sprints to get his head on a ball that a defender has... they've forgotten the cardinal rule of defending, which is don't let it bounce in front of you. Ivan pops up, gets his head to it, finds Rob Street, and let's not make any bones about it. That's not the easiest of finishes that Rob Street's going to score this season. It was a wonderful finish. And I think the roof came off Centrebank.
Yeah, I think it did. Rob made the finish look a lot more simple than it was. He looked so calm, just slotting it past. Obviously, huge credit to Ivan. Because it's not just a case of he ran and won the ball back. Like he started from a long way away. Mentioned what we said earlier. He's just jumped from one player to the next, spotted an opportunity to... And it's brave, it's aggressive, it's front-footed. That word front-footed is what Michael said loads and loads and loads. That's what front-footed looks like. And I thought Ivan epitomised that yesterday. I thought he was unbelievably good. Got his head on it, and then, just what a wonderful moment. Yeah, roof came off. In our little block, I sit up in upper four. And there's one seat directly next to me that's not a season ticket. So there's a different person there every game. And the chap last night, I never seen him before. And I gave him an enormous hug. So we were just celebrating. And then we kind of both made eye contact and then just had a massive embrace. It was lovely. What a great moment. That's what football does, isn't it? It makes you hug strangers. It was amazing. But in all seriousness, it's no less than we deserved. 100%. We absolutely deserved to be a goal ahead, if not more, at half time. But it was a magical moment. It was something that lived with me for a long time, particularly for someone who wasn't that bothered, but didn't necessarily feel the occasion until getting to completely got swept away with that moment. It was absolutely brilliant. It really was.
Yeah, you say about somebody that sort of sat that wasn't normally sat with you. The same thing happened to me last night, and I just want to actually very quickly give a shout out to Callum, who will probably be listening, because he showed up and he was at the seat next to Rach, and he said as soon as he came in, he went, "You're Ben from the podcast." I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, listen every week, lad. You're smashing it, lads." I was like, "Oh, that's really nice. Thank you, mate." And we had a good old chat throughout the game. So shout out to Callum if you're listening. But honest to God, when your phone's in your pocket and you don't know what's quite going on with it. And you try and get your phone out of your pocket and it's somehow gone a bit haywire, and you open your camera roll and you've got photos of the inside of your pocket on screenshots and everything else, and you think something's just malfunctioned. That was my brain in the moment the ball hit the back of the net. I don't know what happened and I don't know what I did, but all I remember is having Rach under my right arm, Hayden, who sits in front of me, basically turning around and hugging me there, and just nearly falling 3 rows down, but almost in tears with how loud I was screaming about the fact that we just scored against the World Club champions. I was absolutely beside myself when that goal went in last night. And Gary's article the other day, you know, the one that you mentioned earlier, he said it's about moments. It is about moments. You know, you look back, you don't remember. Well, you might, because you've got a footballing brain that retains information around stats more than anybody else that I've ever known. But we don't remember the boring 1-1s away, or, you know, the 0-0 12-30s, you know, and things like that. You remember Nathan Arnold going around the keeper. You remember Bruno smashing it in away at MK, and we'll remember Rob Street putting one away past Chelsea last night. And it's those moments that people live for. And I just thought it was absolutely superb last night.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more, mate. And again, that kind of the thing I said earlier, I was that bloke before the game, but I certainly wasn't that bloke at that point. And a couple of things really on that, in that, you know, I did say before the game that I'd rather win Peterborough, and we have to beat Peterborough. That's the most important game. And don't get me wrong, I still think there's an element of truth to that. But this time in 3 seasons' time, none of us are going to remember who we played after we played Chelsea. And that's exactly what Gary's point was in his article, wasn't it? Like, who did we play after we beat Chelsea? Who cares? We played Chelsea. That was a brilliant moment that will live long in the memory. And, you know, also I quite liked about last night, and this is one thing I did kind of mention in the build-up to the game, is that normally when, and we've experienced it ourselves, obviously, with our FA Cup run as well, as magical as it was, and it was magical, of course it was, but the financial aspect comes up quite a lot as well, doesn't it? Because, of course, it was life-changing for the club. Whenever a smaller team plays a bigger team, normally the main talking point is finance. You know, hell, even if I'm a massive advocate for keeping replays in the FA Cup.
Yep.
But, and there is a but to this. If we played Chelsea at home in the FA Cup when replays were around, as a football fan, you want to win that game. But as, like, with a long-term mentality of wanting to grow the football club, you want to draw so you can go there and get the gate receipts, don't you?
Yeah.
So what I loved about this match is that, we made a decent amount of money, but it wasn't really about the money. It wasn't a life-changing amount of money. It's welcome finance, but it's not life-changing like it was in the FA Cup run. This was just about the game, just about the spectacle, just about the football. And I loved that. And I think that's maybe what made me enjoy it more. It's like, it is just about this 90 minutes, really. Let's just embrace every little second of that. So I loved it. I loved it so much.
Yeah, no. I think running out towards half time, it felt deserved. Like, it absolutely felt deserved, like you say. And just seeing everybody at half time just rising to the occasion and you know, giving everybody a fully deserved standing ovation to go off. And listening back again, I just think the amount of praise that we were getting, particularly from like the 5 Live commentary, I've listened back to a lot of that. It was all about, you know, it wasn't little old Lincoln. It wasn't, you know, the plucky underdogs. It was like, no, this is a well-drilled, well-organised side. And they're thoroughly deserving of being in front. So, look, we did suggest that this we wouldn't have a problem talking for that long about the game, and we've just about got to half time, and we're 34 minutes in, Chris. So we'll have a little break, and then we will come back and we'll touch on possibly one of the best goals I've seen at the Bank. Unfortunately, right. Brilliant. We will see you the other side of this. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, then we'll say hello. Right, that's it. That's the pause. So, hello.
Just quickly, Mr. Ward, before we say hello, everyone, by the way, we'll say hello in a moment. I haven't got many stats today, Ben, but I would just like to share a few of the stats of our half-time metrics compared to Chelsea's, because they're very fun.
Okay.
So that we'll come into that, and then we'll say then what happened, basically. If that's all right with you.
Cool. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So, right, let's see who we've got in. Of course, Mr. Barton's in. He's always in, but usually first. But he's been slipping past couple of days. Andy Brown is in, of course, as well. Flossie's in. Ian is in. Says can't wait for Peterborough now.
Me too.
Flossie says win on Saturday and we go top. But let's not jump ahead of ourselves. Absolutely fair. Who else is in? Dave Tuplin's in. Even all, how is everybody after last night up the mighty Imps? As you can probably hear, it's all good. It's all good. Adam Bull is in. Everyone feeling on a high. We absolutely are. We're waxing lyrical tonight, and I think it's fully deserved. Andy S is in, said good evening all. Brian Purdy's in, says up the Imps. Red Wimp is in, says evening. Flossie says these days I always carry Vocal Zone lozenges in my pocket. That's not a bad shout, particularly if I'm going to a match and then doing a podcast the following day. Leslie Rook is in, says evening lads, great game last night. It was indeed. I'm christening Leslie my podcast mum because apparently I'm her favourite. And yeah, Emily confirmed last night, so happy with that one. Mick Kennedy says, wow, what a game I miss. I missed the game. Had a storm here in the Philippines, knocked out the Wi-Fi for 36 hours. Saw the highlights on YouTube. Outstanding performance. Wow, that is that's unfortunate, Mick. Of all the times. Dino says, Eden gents, just dipping in to say hello. I'll be listening on my now shorter journey home tomorrow. Claire comes with bad news. She says, sadly, Curry Jacks were unlikely to be on a Tuesday night game this season. Derek's now at college on a Tuesday. Somebody bettering themselves when I can't have a bloody curry. It's ridiculous. Adam says, thoughts on ticket sales for Posh? I think they're quite disappointing considering our start. Let's come back to that one when we do Posh, because it's a question that we can answer. So that's all good. Dom's here, says evening all. Gerard is here, says great game last night. Proud to be in it as a team. We do seem to be susceptible conceding at the start of the second half. Felt we deserved a draw. Paul says tactics this week have been outstanding from Michael Skubala. Lisa asked a question that we can probably answer in the show as well. Might have missed it last night, but where was Jacko? David Ward's here, says evening gents, what a great game last night. And not even with our first team playing, not even holding, but actually outplayed a team with a massive budget on the field. Carl Mercer's in, evening friend, how we doing? He says, my cousin is a diehard Chelsea fan, and his exact words at half-time is, you're battering us. Yeah, absolutely.
That's nice.
Neil's here, says good evening everybody. John's here, good evening. Harry Jackson says the boys did us proud last night. First half we pressed brilliantly. MK Spokes is in, says evening. Rich Poole says battered them in the first 45 against a strong Chelsea lineup, not the kids. Harry's here, says hi all. Let's have a quick look. Who else have we got? I think that's pretty much everybody. Ed Epton's here, says after that great effort last night, just hope we're not burnt out for Posh on Saturday. Paul's in, says good evening chaps, what a game, what a performance, what a team. Absolutely. Isaac's granddad, a Chelsea fan, was very impressed with how Lincoln played. Leslie said evening sun. I'll take that. It's all good. So yeah, cool. Right, well, we're getting a lot of comments during the broadcast now, and it's very fun. It is very, very fun to have a community that's sort of spawned around the podcast. So, Mole's just commented as well. So I'm so proud. Absolutely. Right. So, yeah, we've had 5 minutes of saying hello to peeps. Anything we want to add before we jump back in with some stats, Chris?
Just thank you for tuning in, guys. It's so I just only can second what Ben said. It's so nice to have some comments while we're doing this, and yeah, still feels weird to know that people are actually watching while we do this, because we used to record this not live, and we went live that one time. I thought that, and was really nervous for it just to be normal and people actually want to tune in when we're talking about football. It's still quite alien to me. So thank you, everybody. It's really nice.
Absolutely. Right. So we will come back in 3, 2, 1. And there we go. So, yeah, advert for the week, and slight peek behind the curtain. If you're not watching live on YouTube, Chris had a request, and of course it's to do with stats. So, you know, what was your request, Chris? Because
I'm a stats.
I'm annoyed at that because it just cuts off the very first part of that every time I play it for the first time. So I'll have to try and rework that. But
Oh, well.
What do you want to do, Stats Man?
I would like to tell everyone a few interesting statistics as to how the game stood at half time. Obviously, the most important stat of all was Lincoln City 1, Chelsea 0. However, let's look at some of these because we've been saying here, we deserved it. And yeah, we did. And let's see why. So expected goals, 1.11 for Lincoln, 0.37 for Chelsea at half time. We had 9 shots. They only had 3 in the whole first half. We had 21 touches in Chelsea's box in the first half alone. They only had 10 in ours. We haven't had, not many teams in League One have more than 20 touches in the whole 90 minutes against League One opposition. That's incredibly good. I just thought that was amazing. And we forced Chelsea to clear their lines 19 times. We only needed to clear ours 9 times. But the big one was touching the box for me. Like that just shows how often was the ball at that end of the pitch. How often were we making them defend their own box, keeping them in their own third? Brilliant, really good. So yeah, all of us that our gut instinct felt like we deserved to be 1-0 up. We did. We absolutely did. And the numbers even back that up. And these are nice numbers to read at any time. But then I have to keep reminding myself when I read these out is that it's versus Chelsea.
Yep.
And then the second half happened, Ben.
Yeah, the second half happened. Let's talk about it then. So, I mean, they'd very clearly had a rocket of some description shoved in an orifice, hadn't they? They came out with a purpose. And while it wasn't necessarily the overall reverse, and there wasn't an overall battering that immediately started to happen, it was a moment of genuine Premier League quality that got them back on terms. It was a bit of a ricocheted clearance, I think, from it came off Lewis Montsma, and then Tyreek George. I don't think I've seen a better goal in person ever.
It was an amazing goal.
It was just an absolutely wonderful hit. I mean, the some of the analysis I've seen of it, like, there's very little backlift on his foot. He just hits it. I think if I need to remember the exact technical term, but I think Gary describes the technical term as a shit pinger. Which just
I think that is a technical term.
Yeah, it absolutely flew off his boot. And you said earlier when we were talking about Lewis Montsma's effort off the post, you expected it to ping off the post and go into the other side netting. That is exactly what happened. I mean, I just turned to Rach and I said, that's what £1 billion buys you, I guess. Just an unbelievable finish to get them back on level terms. And bear in mind, to get Chelsea back on level terms against Lincoln.
Yeah, it was a great goal. And sometimes you do just have to doff your cap, don't you? Because no one was at fault. It was a bit of a ricochet, as you mentioned. No one made a mistake leading up to it. He's just the ball's sat up relatively nicely and he's caught it brilliantly. He flies into the net. You go, party over. Well, not a party over because obviously it's still a good result at that point, but it was, off the high of the first half. And at that moment in time, it felt undeserved, albeit we had the 15-minute break. It felt, that's kind of, they haven't really earned that. If they'd been, peppering our goal and we'd been clearing the ball off the line and then they score one from 25 yards out, I think, it's been coming. But yeah, it was like, it's just a little bit of I wouldn't say I was gutted or, I felt sick or anything. It was just, that's the sort of thing that happens when you've got £1 billion, like you said.
Yeah.
And so, I had no complaints over that. It was just, that happened. And then it was, the next minute, wasn't it, that the second goal went in?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, George was involved again during the build-up, plays the ball to Buonanotte. I can't recall. Yeah. And at the time, I sat there and I thought, that feels genuinely quite disappointing. Because it just looks like he's walked it past a few defenders. But there's actually some clever footwork in play. And I think just to touch on something that we spoke about earlier, and that's what you call foreshadowing people, and that's what you learn in writing school, apparently. We spoke about the referee. I think with the amount of soft free kicks that had been given in that first half, I think they were afraid to put a challenge in, because all of a sudden, oh, hang on, if we don't put this challenge in, then we won't definitely give away a penalty. But if we do, this referee might give a penalty. So I think there was probably an element of that allowed him to get through. But, you know, again, you've got a Premier League quality player that kind of uses his feet in such a way to get the ball through. And he just kind of, you know, pokes it through.
He does. It does. I definitely think there's an element of what you just mentioned in terms of not feeling confident in being able to put a challenge in at the risk of giving a penalty away. I do genuinely think there's something in that. However, again, this is mainly on second viewing. I think the sort of close control that both Chelsea players that were involved in the goal showed, we don't come up against that in League One. No. I don't. Despite us having plenty of players close to the ball and around it, I don't think there was a single moment watching it, because it's quite good actually on the replay, because it slows it down and it's zoomed in so you can see. And I don't think there's a single moment when any Lincoln City player, despite being close and around the ball, has a genuine chance to put a foot in and win the ball cleanly. I don't think there's a single opportunity in that whole phase of play. And to be honest, it felt like both players just had the ball stuck to their toes with glue for a few seconds, and we just couldn't get near it. It was heartbreaking at the time, gutting at the time, because it was not just the one goal, it was two goals. It was obviously, it made it really difficult. It felt a little undeserved at that point because of how good the first half was and how soon after that they'd gone not just from equalised but to gone ahead. And I'll admit at that point, I don't even think I was gutted about the fact that they'd scored the second goal. I was nervous for the first time all game because I thought, no, are we going to get battered now?
Yeah.
And we didn't. I think we dusted ourselves down, and it was certainly a more even game in the second half than it was the first. Chelsea were the better side, had more control in the second half than they did the first. We still had our chances, but we certainly battled as hard as we could. We stopped them playing as much as we could. Got caught a couple of times, but that's Chelsea's quality. But we weren't really peppered at any point. There weren't many clear-cut chances where you think they should have gone 3-4 up, which was really pleasing from going 2-1 down. And I thought all the way up until the final whistle, we'd have half a chance of staying in the game and nicking a goal. And I think that's all. Once it gets to 2-1, I honestly think that's all you could hope for. I was so proud of us. But yeah, the second goal upon second viewing was actually just quality from them, really quality. But it was the fear of, oh my God, we've only played, 47, 48 minutes.
Yeah.
Is this going to be a long second half? And thankfully it wasn't.
That is exactly my feeling as well. Like, as soon as the second one goes in, you go, oh Christ, don't let this go too badly. But I mean, you know, we did have other chances. The chance in the first half that we completely skipped over with Freddie Draper. You know, unfortunately, Sonny Bradley getting in the way. It was an open goal, and he just unfortunately managed to, you know, knock it off Sonny Bradley. And then we did have half chances. There was you know, Fred had a really good chance where he sort of jinked past two defenders and didn't quite manage to work the keeper. Frankie Okoronkwo had a half an effort that I think it just bounced in the worst possible moment for him, right on top of his foot, basically, and it pinged over the bar.
Luckily for him, unluckily for us, it was given as offside as well.
He was offside, yeah. Yeah, I was about to say. But yeah, I just think there is absolutely no shame and there's no bad points from last night. You know, we've come through the game, a very, very tough game, obviously, a game that everybody probably expected us to lose. Yes, we've lost, but it was a tight game. They know they've been in a fight. We've come through it without any injuries. We've come through it without any suspensions. And I'm just, the overriding word is pride. I can't think of anything else. Obviously we've had the West Ham game, we've had the Everton game, where they were quite close, but to take Chelsea to 90 minutes and almost get there.
Yeah, what could have been maybe, but I think what did I really want pre-match? I wanted Chelsea to never been in a game.
Yep,
and I think there was 2 or 3 Chelsea players on their knees at full time.
100%, yeah.
Like they were in a game, and credit to everyone. And I think we're probably a bit unlucky in the second half because I wouldn't say we had many clear-cut chances, but there were 2 or 3 goal-mouth scrambles where another day that does just drop your way and it gets bundled in. And maybe this is a little bit rose-tinted, but I think penalties would have been fair. I really do. And then it's a lottery. Let's have fun at that point. But
I think it would have been because
it's not really about the result in a way, though, is it? Which is weird to say.
Ultimately, we say about how much we dominated the first half and we battered them in the first half. They didn't do that to us in the second half. There were periods of play where they had the ball for a very long time, but it was almost like that Simpsons episode, left back passes to centre back, to left back, to right back. And there wasn't a huge amount of danger. In fact, the only other real shot on target that I can remember was the one where G-Cock saved it really well with his feet. There wasn't a huge amount of danger throughout that second half. And I just thought that is a performance where we turned down an offer of 600 grand for Rob Street. I'm glad we didn't. I'm glad we didn't sell him, but also that's doubled some players' values last night.
Yeah, and those of them that were given, because we've mentioned it about the change team, but what an opportunity to those players that haven't had a huge amount of football to go and show their abilities, and every single one of them did themselves proud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And we mentioned before about man of the match shouts. I gave mine to Ivan. I think Charlie gave his to Ivan. I think you and Emily both said Tom Hamer. And in a rare occurrence, Gary differed from you and said Conor McGranaman.
Yeah, first time this season.
Yeah.
I honestly, until he went off, I was going to say Ivan Varfolomeev, but I think because of the, that an extra 20 minutes in that game, I think really counts for quite a lot. So I was super, super, super impressed with Ivan. I think in that 70 minutes, I would say he got my man of the match, but because he didn't play the full 90, I thought Tom Hamer was excellent. But as we said at the top of the show, it was impossible to really honestly pick a man of the match yesterday and I don't think it's not really sitting on a fence this time. I think everyone deserved it. Everyone had a shout for it because everyone was excellent, absolutely excellent for the full match. And just leaving the ground and particularly afterwards, kind of this morning, just feel just really proud to be a Lincoln City supporter. And the club is in a good place at the moment, and it's easy to be a Lincoln fan when things are going well. But to feel as proud as we did last night, you don't get that opportunity very often. Not to a wider audience than like the regular League One kind of clan that we surround ourselves with. Like it felt a bigger occasion than that. It felt there was more eyes on it, and everyone involved with the football club can hold themselves hold their heads high. I think, and it was great. Just quickly on the man of the match again, because I remember a couple of weeks ago we were always asked to send our man of the match things in, and I can't remember what game it was, but when I sent my little clip in on our group chat a couple of weeks ago, someone said, "You look sad," on mine, and then last night I sent it, and Emily just said, "You look happy," and my reply was, "I am."
Yeah,
and that wasn't like playing up to the fact that I had a smile on my face on a snapshot. It was like I know we lost, but I was just felt so positive. And you know what? It's the most positive I've ever felt after a loss in my life.
Definitely, yeah. It was just unbelievable. And all of the we'll wrap it up now. But I think all of the praise from the national media, it's a far cry from little old Lincoln have beaten Burnley and then gone to Arsenal and gone pumped. You know, that this was that they're a club on the up. You know, they're a club that they gave them a scare. And I know when you say it gave them a scare, it's obviously there's still a little bit of damning with faint praise in that. But we were great. We were genuinely great last night. And I think Skubala's post-match said it all, where he often praises the effort and the endeavour, but he was very quick to also point out not just that, but also the quality. Because he said, it wasn't us, being held at arm's length by Chelsea, and we're just, wailing around with our arms trying to get a punch on them. Like we landed some blows last night. We went toe to toe with them, and I just can't. Yeah, I can't get over how good we were last night. But can we carry it over? Oh, my mic's gone. Can we carry it over, Chris? Onto what is obviously the bigger game of the week. now that we've lost, we can say that.
Doesn't it now seem like playing a quote unquote weakened starting 11 against Chelsea suddenly looks very smart now, resting some legs going into Peterborough, doesn't it? Hey, and as we said at the start, it's actually not a weaker 11. It's just a different 11. That's what it turned out to be. But it does mean that we have, if we did just have like a best 11 and that's it, and we played that against Chelsea, we're going to have some very tired legs on Saturday. But we've got ability to rotate a little bit and still put an incredibly competitive side out to have a good go at Peterborough. So, yeah, I think we've got a good chance.
Lisa did actually ask the question, and we mentioned it in the break, but she said, I might have missed it last night, but where was Jacko? And the flippant answer to that is, well, he's obviously being saved for the bigger game.
Yeah, and I could be wrong on this, but I'll say anyway. On Saturday, I believe Jacko had a late fitness test to be past fit to play on Saturday. And then Michael mentioned, I think either in his pre-match presser for Chelsea or his post-match at Luton, said that there might be another one before the Chelsea game. Okay. So I'm putting 2 and 2 together and assuming that is Adam Jackson. I might be getting 5, and there might be another reason, and he's just been saved. But
that is
I would imagine, very true. I'd imagine he'd have been at least in the squad if he was available to be selected, because of course been able to name 9 subs as well last night. So I'm assuming it was fitness test failed or not worth the risk. But hopefully it's nothing too serious and he's fit for Saturday.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we do head over to London Road on Saturday against Peterborough, a team that are only being kept off the bottom by Burton, who have played 2 games fewer. They've had a worrying start to the season if you are a posh fan, but they've won the past 2 games. So, Chris, is this going to be as straightforward as some fans think it will be, or do we think there might be a bit of a sting in the tail?
Yeah, not going to be simple. I'd have much preferred to play them 2 weeks ago.
Yep. Not
just because of their results, but because of their style. Because everything that we know Peterborough to be, they had been all the way through this season, up until their 3-2 loss away at Huddersfield. And up until that point, they had just got 1 point from 7 matches. They were shit, to be honest. Really bad. In both boxes, really poor. Hardly created a chance. Hardly scored a goal. Lost the XG battle in every game. Religiously played a 4-2-3-1. Were a really bad League One side. That would be balanced by the fact that they had, at that point, the hardest start of the league in terms of like the fixture list. Like statistically, had the most difficult start out of any team in League One. So were they as bad as the results suggested? Maybe not if you're playing against good teams, but they weren't really that competitive for many teams. The only point they'd got was 1-1 at Bradford. Their losses included a 3-0 defeat away at Exeter, which is another team that has started the season relatively poorly. Since then, they have beaten Wycombe 2-1, and of course, Wycombe sacked their manager very recently. I don't know if it was off the back of that or if it was before that game, but ultimately they beat Wycombe before they hired Michael Duff, who then obviously they won their match on Saturday with the new manager in charge. But they beat Wycombe week before last 2-1. First time all season, they got unexpected goals of over 2, generated some chances, high quality chances. And then they beat Plymouth away 1-0. on Saturday, but again, deserved to in terms of the chances created or quality of chances created. We associate Peterborough with having a lot of the ball, don't we? In their last games, they've had 30% possession and 45% possession. Very un-Peterborough. Peterborough always play a back four. They always have flying wingers. They're always very expansive. They've played 3-5-2 in the last 2 games with 3 centre-backs, 2 up top. Not even the most adventurous midfield. They've been more pragmatic than I've ever seen Peterborough under Darren Ferguson. And we can't deny it's worked. They've been better in the last couple of games. Performance level have improved. They've been much less risk averse. Still played a bit, but not forced it anywhere near as much as they were before. So all of the metrics that you can read in terms of Peterborough's overall performance this season is massively skewed by the last 2 weeks because they've changed shape. They kind of changed approach. Certainly, it's quite extreme by Peterborough standards to change to the level they have. So I don't think it's going to be quite as simple as it would have been, particularly because their approach prior to these last 2 games, it just suits us down to the ground, doesn't it? Teams that want to play, we're great against those sort of teams. We can bully them, we can press them, we're good at that. I don't think we're going to have it all our own way on Saturday in that regard. So there's a couple of other bits in terms of like personnel for them to look out for, but that's probably what I've got in terms of what do we read into their results so far? And yeah, the last 2 probably do give us something to worry about, certainly.
Yeah, it definitely seems like you say with that switch in shape and with the change from Ferguson, it just seems like it's reactive, but it's sensibly reactive. You know, they've not thrown everything out and gone, we need to change absolutely everything. And yes, you know, they're trying to throw it all at the wall and see what sticks. It feels to me like this is a measured change, and he's gone, right, okay, how can we play in a different way that might start to impact games? And like you say, you expect Peterborough to keep hold of the ball and get higher possession stats, and the fact that they haven't been doing that, it almost sounds a bit like us last season before we had our sticky patch. I wonder if, you know, I wonder if this is it. I don't know, changing to you know, 3 at the back, 5 at the back, whichever way you want to put it. It feels like it's maybe catching up to what a lot of teams were trying to do last year.
It's weird, isn't it? Because I think things rotate so often, and often you have one system that you only have a system because you're trying to use that as a way of getting an advantage over an opponent. So if I think we can see that in the Premier League now. I think the Arsenal City game was a prime example of that. I mean, what do you associate Man City with? Like massive high possession, the ball's never anywhere near their area. Okay, they might be horseshoing it around the 18-yard box of the opposition, but it's nowhere near their own goal. Whereas they were camped in their own 18-yard box pretty much for the whole game against Arsenal. And they're playing quite direct, they're low possession. Like, football changes, right? And that's because lots of people are working out how to play against that system. And I think we're in quite an interesting position right now in the whole of football, in that there isn't really one dominant style. It is a bit more athletic. It is a bit more changeable at the moment. I kind of like that. It makes it more interesting for me. It makes sense for them to change. Like, sometimes it is simple, though, because as much as we sometimes overcomplicate football, it is quite simple. What they've done is they've given themselves an extra centre-back to defend the box, and they're playing 2 strikers rather than 1. And so they've got an extra body kind of on the break, and they've got an extra body in the middle of the pitch to head it and clear it and, you know, take the risk away. It makes sense. But can I just add a couple of bits in regard to look out for? Because the 3 players that have been playing centre-back, I think, is quite interesting. So they've got Thomas O'Connor, who they signed from Wrexham. He's playing left centre-back now at the moment. Tom Lees, their only real experienced player in the squad, is playing right centre-back. And young George Nevitt, who's a player I thought was excellent at Rochdale, really young centre-back. He has a real potential to go on and play at a much higher level. Similar sort of defender to Ronnie Edwards. And we're not going to put that pressure on the lad, but he's good. Like, he's mature above his age.
Well, he's their captain, I think, at the minute, isn't he?
Oh, is he? I know that. That's interesting. Well, that says it all, probably, doesn't it? But there's a couple of things interesting here, because even though they've got an extra player there, they're not performing amazingly individually in terms of like duels. And we just shared how good that was for us against not just Chelsea, but Luton as well. Like, we win our duels really well. This is a back 3 that aren't brilliant at that. I also thought it quite interesting in that just the total amount of aerial duels that these players individually have had to contest this season is actually quite low. Peterborough haven't actually played against many teams this season that's going to put the sort of aerial pressure on them that we will likely do. So despite them having an extra man at the back, despite them being a bit more pragmatic than maybe we expect from Peterborough of recent years, I do still think they've probably got a soft underbelly, and I think they're going to be better defensively than we maybe would have expected them to be. But I do genuinely think our physicality, if we're on it as much as we have been in the last couple of games, which I really hope we are, albeit after clearly an energy-sapping game against Chelsea, I think that intensity and that aggressiveness could unstick them. But they're not going to be as easy as we maybe expected them to be. I doubt it's going to be 5-0 again like it was at the Bank last season. And then just a couple of other things that I thought were quite fun. The ball has been in the Peterborough's opposition's third for the least amount of time this season compared to any other team in League One. So in all of their games combined, in every single match that's been in League One this season, how much has the play for both teams, how much has the ball been in the other end? So against Peterborough in our third, it's the lowest amount of time out of the whole of League One. So they still try and build a little bit. So I think that's interesting. And also, they seem to start second halves quite slowly. This is albeit a small sample size, but it was a big enough difference that I thought it was worth sharing. So from minutes 45 to 60, Peterborough have conceded 6 goals this season and only scored 1.
Okay.
So that's fun. And for us, because it's always interesting to compare it to us, that's annoying. The adverts popped up on the website I use. There we go. So we, in the first half, our goal difference is ahead at every 15-minute block. And just after half time, it's 1-1 for us. So there's not much action there. But I thought it was interesting that this is clearly a trend for Posh that they start second halves quite slowly. And we obviously start games really quickly. We've scored the first goal in 7 out of our 9 games, I think. And we're really, really good in the first half. So I think if we can start quick, we can be aggressive, get in their face, stop them playing, force them to kick it long because we can mop that up all day. I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, no, I think the confidence seems to be pretty high in the squad at the moment, and like you say, we've got that togetherness, and you said earlier, you can see it. You can see it in the team. You can see it in the lads when they show up and when they're doing their interviews. Everything just seems at the moment. It seems like we're doing more right than we are wrong, and long may that continue. Obviously, there will be bumps in the road. There will be games that we would expect to win and we lose, but it's about how we recover from those. And I think so far we've looked really strong. I mean, in terms of the lineup, we're obviously we are expecting to see changes from the Chelsea game. You'd obviously expect Lewis Monsma to drop out. I don't think a decent game against Chelsea will see him claiming a starting position. We've got George Rickens that would come in. Obviously, we will be changing back to a back 4, I would imagine, against Peterborough on Saturday. Do we think we maybe see a start for Ivan, or do we?
I don't know. I think
bench because he was out. He was.
Yeah,
outstanding.
I thought he was great. I suppose the only thing, and this is not. I really hope this doesn't come across as a criticism. I thought he was great. Tom Bayliss doesn't deserve to not play.
Yeah.
Firstly, and I think Ivan's skill set really suits playing against a team that you want to press, that you expect the opposition to have more of the ball than you. It's a battle. Like, we haven't seen a lot from him, but I know that intensity is definitely the skill set that I've seen more of. He hasn't been on the ball enough for us to see his on-ball quality. The little bit he did show yesterday was good. We've certainly seen that from Tom Bayliss. I think set pieces will be an important factor on Saturday again against Peterborough. They've conceded the second most goals from set pieces so far this season in League One. Like, that's clearly a target for us, isn't it? Because no matter what shape you play in possession, you've still got the same players on the pitch off at a set piece. It's still 11 men v 11 men at a set piece. So we've got a real strength there. And I think it'd be unwise not to select Tom Bayliss, not just because of his set pieces, but that certainly adds something to it, doesn't it? So what I certainly learnt yesterday, and this is repeating what we said earlier, really, if Ivan does start, that's great. That's fine. He's perfectly adequate. And I've got no denying he'll be a really big player for us for many years. Will he play a start again on Saturday? Not sure. Happy if he does. Happy if Tom Bayliss does as well. And I'd say the same about Lewis Monsma, because if Jacko isn't fit and Tom Hamer is absolutely knackered after putting a hell of a shift in, and a start is a little bit too much for him on Saturday. Lewis slots in there. That's absolutely fine as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a good headache to have. I'm glad it isn't all the way to say. It's glad that I'm one that I don't have. So, right, we will wrap up. Although Adam does ask one question: thoughts on ticket sales for Posh? I think they're quite disappointing considering our start.
I don't know how many there are.
I think I saw already that I don't know if Adam's seen this, but I think I saw already that we've sold 1,600.
Oh, that's
pretty good.
I thought that's pretty good. I think we took about 14 last season. Maybe.
Yeah, I think I saw that. I may be wrong, but yeah, no, I think if it is around 1,600, I don't think that's bad. I think that's pretty decent.
I'm looking forward to on Saturday, Ben.
What?
We're in the good stand behind the goal, not in that stupid stand on the side that was not fit for purpose.
There we go. So, look, we've talked about Chelsea. We've waxed lyrical about how we battered a Premier League team for at least 45 minutes. We've spoken about how I've nearly lost my voice. And we've spoken about Peterborough. So I don't really think there's anything else that we need to say. Unless there's anything else you want to bring up, Chris?
No, mate, all good.
Other than, of course, extending all of our love and best wishes to our beloved leader. And we will be back on Sunday. I'm not entirely sure who it is at the moment. It may well be me and you again.
Yeah, it's me and someone.
Yeah. But as always, one thing we need to end with, Chris, and that is, of course, up the imps.
Up the imps.